Good evening everyone, I'm Driti Atri and you're watching Skyline. Tonight we are going to talk about the biggest legal, immigration and financial developments affecting Indians in the United States as usual. From hidden IRS rule to big tech layoffs to visa change. Well, to Wall Street maybe, which is quietly shifting jobs to India. These are the stories that don't just make headlines. They have the power to change people's life. So, wherever you are watching from, be it New York, California, Texas, New Jersey, or right here in India, stay with me till the very end because one of these stories could directly affect you or somebody in your family. So let's start with it. If you are living in the US on an H-1B visa, a green card, or a US citizen, well, you still have a bank account or investment in India, today's story is one that you cannot afford to ignore. Many Indians continue to keep an NRE account, an NRO account, fixed deposit mutual fund, even money from an ancestral property back home. Since these assets are in India, most people assume that the US government has nothing to do with them. But that's one of the biggest financial misconceptions many NRIs have today. Thousands of Indians in America are unknowingly walking into a compliance trap. Not because they are trying to hide money, but because they simply don't know the rules. And in 2026, these rules are being enforced more closely than ever before. The rule revolves around something called FBAR, the report of foreign bank and financial accounts. The name may sound technical to you, but the rule, it's very simple. If the combined value of all your foreign financial accounts crosses about 10,000 United States dollars at any point during the year, you may have to report these accounts to the US government. The important word here is combined. It's not $10,000 in one account, it's the total across your foreign accounts. Now, let me make that easier to understand for you. If you have $4,000 in an NRE account, $3,000 in an NRO account, and $3,000 in fixed deposit, and another $2,000 in mutual funds, you have crossed the limit. It's that simple. Many people check each account separately and assume that they are safe. Now, that's not how it really works. But wait, there is another misunderstanding that catches many NRIs by surprise. Since NRE account enjoy tax benefit in India, people often believe that they don't need to worry about them in the US. But Indian tax rule and the US tax rules completely different. What is tax-free in India does not automatically become tax-free under the US law. And it's not just about saving account. Fixed deposit, certain investment accounts and even joint accounts with parents can sometimes fall under reporting requirement. And that's why experts recommend reviewing your foreign financial account together instead of looking them one by one. Now, here's the obvious question. How will the IRS really know? Answer is very simple. International financial reporting has become far more connected than it used to be. Tax authorities now receive information through global reporting system and use automated technology to compare the financial records. Well, if something does not match, it can raise a question. But yes, the good news is that if you have missed a required filing, don't panic right now, but don't ignore it either. Review your account, understand your reporting obligation, and if you're unsure, speak to a qualified cross-border tax professional. If it comes to international taxes, assumption can be very expensive for you. Staying informed is always the smarter option. And yes, speaking of expensive mistakes, what if losing your job wasn't the biggest financial shock? What if the Severance package meant to support you end up creating a massive tax bill instead? Well, that's exactly what is happening to many Indian tech workers. So, let's start our next story. Losing your job is stressful enough. I do agree, but for many Indian tech professionals in the US, the real shock comes after the layoff. The company announces a generous Severance package. Sometimes it's worth $100,000 or even more. It feels like a financial cushion that will help you get through a difficult phase. But before that money even reaches your bank account, a large part of it may already be gone. For thousands of H-1B professionals, a layoff is not just about finding the next job. It becomes a race against time. You have just 60 days to find another employer willing to sponsor your visa. Now, naturally, your focus it shifts to the interviews, networking, and saving your immigration status. But in the middle of all of this, many people completely overlook the tax consequences of these reverence package. Now, here's where the surprise really begins. In the eyes of the IRS, reverence pay is still taxable income. That means federal taxes, state taxes in places like California or New York, and payroll taxes can all reduce the amount you actually receive. So the number written in your reverence agreement is often very different from the amount that finally lands in your account. And the story does not end here. Many Indian professionals decide to return home after a layoff, believing that it will give them more time to plan their next move. But if your reverence payment, annual bonus, or company stock is paid after you have moved back to India, things can become much more complicated for you. Depending on your tax residency, both the US and India may have rules that apply to the same income. Many people assume that India-US tax treaty automatically protects them from paying tax twice. It can help, but only if you follow the correct process. Missing important paperwork or filing deadlines, it can create unnecessary tax problem and it can delay the relief that you are entitled to. And yes, there's another hidden trap: company stock. Many big tech companies allow employees to keep or accelerate some of their RSUs as maybe part of layoff package. Now it sounds like a bonus to you, right? But those shares can also create a tax liability. And if the company does not withhold enough tax, you could end up receiving an unexpected bill when it comes to file your return. So the question is, what should you do if you are facing a layoff? Ladies and gentlemen, first understand exactly what your reverence package includes. Is it only reverence pay, or does it also include bonuses, unused vacation payouts, or stock compensation? Second, if possible, discuss the timing of your payout with your employer, because timing can sometimes affect your overall tax situation. And if you're planning to move back to India, speak to cross-border tax expert before you relocate, not after all. Well, a layoff is already a difficult chapter. Don't let tax mistake make it even expensive for you. With the right planning, you can protect more of the money you have worked so hard to earn. But yes, layoffs aren't the only challenge facing Indian professionals in America. While some are losing jobs, others are discovering that jobs themselves are quietly moving out of the United States. And surprisingly, guess where they are moving? India. That's right, that is our next story. Well, for years, there was one dream that attracted thousands of Indian engineers to the United States: landing a higher paying technology job on Wall Street. If you worked for a major bank in New York, it meant prestige, stability, one of the best salary packages in the industry. But wait, that model is quietly changing now. America's biggest banks are no longer looking at India as just a back office destination. They are now treating India as a global tech powerhouse. And the biggest impact of this shift, it could be felt by Indian professionals currently working in the US. For decades, the formula pretty simple. Critical jobs like AI development, risk model, trading platform, and core engineering stayed in America. Routine support work went overseas, but today that line, it is disappearing. Banks are now building advanced technology teams in Bengaluru, in Hyderabad, in Mumbai, in India. These aren't just support centers anymore. In fact, they are leading projects involving artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, cloud infrastructure, and financial engineering. Here, the reason, it is pretty simple, and that reason is business economics. Hiring a senior AI engineer in cities like New York or San Francisco, it can cost companies several $1,000s every single year once salary, healthcare, taxes, and other benefits are included. The same level of talent in India, maybe more. It often costs significantly less, while companies, well, they continue to access a highly skilled engineering workforce. And that financial advantage, it is changing the hiring decisions across Wall Street. Now, for professionals who are working in the US on H-1B visa, this creates a difficult situation. Many banks are slowing new visa sponsorship, reducing external hiring, and becoming more selective about replacing vacant roles. In some cases, positions that would once again have been filled in America are now being openly directed in India. But every challenge also creates another opportunity. For experienced Indian professionals who are tired of visa uncertainty, green card backlog, or repeated immigration stress, India's growing global capability centers are opening new doors. Many are offering leadership role, international exposure, and opportunity to work on products that serve customers around the globe. And now, of course, moving back is not just about a career decision for you. It also includes financial planning. It includes stock options, retirement account, taxation, and long-term career goal. All needs very careful consideration before making such a move. However, one thing is definitely becoming increasingly clear. Wall Street is no longer outsourcing simple work to India. It is increasingly building the future of banking technology from India itself. For professionals, the message is equally clear. The demand for routine coding is slowing, while specialized skills in AI, cloud architecture, in fact, cybersecurity and financial technology are becoming more valuable than ever before. Because in today's global tech industry, it's no longer just about where you work. It's about whether your skills remain relevant wherever the job moves. And yes, while companies are reconstructing where work gets done, they are also reconstructing who stays inside the organization. Well, sadly saying that next wave of cuts, it is not targeting the freshers. It is targeting experienced managers, which is, by the way, our next story. For years, the career path in tech industry looked very predictable. You started as software engineer, you worked hard, you became a team leader, and then an engineering manager, eventually moved to a senior leadership role. Now today, that career ladder, it is being rewritten. Across Silicon Valley, Seattle, and other major tech hubs, companies are quietly removing an entire layer of management. Instead of adding more managers, they are building flattened team where fewer people supervise larger groups. You know what is the reason here? Companies are under pressure to cut costs, improve efficiency, and invest billions into AI. Every unnecessary layer, it is being questioned now. For many Indian professionals working in the US on H-1B visas, this creates a very serious challenge, by the way. If a software engineer loses a job, finding another engineering role is often possible within the 60-day grace period. But for somebody working as an engineering manager or cloud delivery manager, the options much limited. Many companies have frozen external hiring for management position and prefer promoting existing employees instead. And that's where the pressure begins. It's not just about losing job. It is about finding another role with a similar profile before your immigration clock it runs out. And yes, there's another concern that many professionals don't think about until it's too late. The green card process. Thousands of Indian professionals have already spent years waiting in the employment-based green card queue. So if somebody loses their job before reaching important milestone in that process, it can disrupt years of planning and it can create fresh uncertainty for entire family. Well, the financial impact, it could also be significant. Many managers accepted compensation packages that depend heavily on bonuses and company stock. During reconstructing, unvested stock options are often be lost. Well, if the only available opportunity is an individual contributor role, many professionals may have to accept lower salaries just to maintain their legal status in the country. And at the very same time, many of these leadership and platform management roles are expanding rapidly in India's global capability centers. Companies are giving Indian offices greater responsibility for cloud delivery, enterprise architecture, and global operations. So, what should professionals do here? Answer is simple. Don't rely only on your management title. Continue building strong technical expertise. Skill in AI infrastructure, cloud platforms, cybersecurity, and data engineering are becoming increasingly valuable. The managers who stay close to tech, they are often in much stronger position when organizations reconstruct. Because this isn't just another round of layoff, right? It's a structural change in how the global tech industry is being built. And those who will adapt early, they will have the biggest advantage. And yes, while the corporate world is changing its hiring strategy, the US government is tightening its focus somewhere else. Immigration filing. And this time, it's not the applicant under scrutiny first, it's the lawyers representing them. And here comes our next story. For years, many people believed that once an immigration lawyer filed their application, the difficult part, that's over. Whether it was an asylum case or another immigration petition, applicants, they trusted that everything submitted on their behalf, it was accurate. But the US government is now taking a much closer look, not just at applicants, but also at the lawyers preparing these cases. The Department of Homeland Security has just launched a major crackdown on immigration filing that appears to contain copied or template-based information. Investigators are using technology just to compare the documents submitted across multiple cases. If different applications contain nearly identical stories or language, they can be flagged for further review. Now, recently, a New York-based immigration attorney came under federal scrutiny after authorities alleged that multiple asylum cases contained strikingly similar narrative. Officials have also taken action in some cases, by the way, involving immigration lawyers, signaling that this is part of a broader enforcement effort rather than an isolated investigation. Now, here's why it matters for the applicant. Many people rely completely on their lawyers and never read even a single page of the document filed in their name. But under the US immigration law, you are responsible for the information that is submitted on your application, even if somebody else have prepared that. Well, if authorities believe that a filing contains inaccurate, copied, or misleading information, it can create serious legal complications. Now, depending on the facts of the case, it may lead to additional questioning, delays, or maybe affect future immigration benefit. And that is why immigration experts always advise applicants to keep a complete copy of every single document filed on their behalf. Read your statement very carefully, make sure that every single fact is accurate, every declaration reflects your personal story, and never sign a document that you haven't fully understood. Ladies and gentlemen, the message from US authorities is becoming increasingly clear. Immigration enforcement is no longer focused on people entering the country illegally. It is also focusing on the accuracy and ethnicity of legal immigration filing as well. Well, for anybody with a pending immigration case, this story is for you. This is the right time to review your paperwork. Not out of fear though, but to make sure everything filed in your name is complete, accurate, and truthful. And yes, while one proposal is making life harder for immigrants that are already in the system, another proposal could make it far more expensive for future students to even begin their American dream. Well, for thousands of Indian students, getting admission to an American university is more than just earning a degree. It is the first step towards building a career in the US. The usual plan is simple: complete your studies, work through the OPT, optional practical training, gain experience, and eventually move to an H-1B visa. But that pathway, it could become much more expensive if a new proposal moves forward. Ladies and gentlemen, reports suggest that the US Department of Homeland Security is considering a proposal that could attach a $100,000 fee to post-graduation work authorization under the OPT program. Now, at this stage, it's only a proposal, not a final rule, but even the possibility has sparked concern among students, universities, and employers. Now, to understand why this matters, let's first understand what OPT actually is. OPT allows international students on F1 visa to work in the US after graduation. For STEM graduates, that work period can extend up to 3 years, making OPT one of the most important bridges between university life and full-time employment. Now imagine adding a 6-figure cost to that particular bridge. If students are expected to pay it themselves, it could make working in the US financially impossible for many families who have already spent heavily on tuition fee and living expenses. On the other hand, if employers are required to bear the cost here, many startups and mid-sized companies may simply stop hiring international graduates altogether. The impact? It wouldn't stop there. Indian students make up one of the largest international student communities in the US, right? American universities also depend heavily on international enrollment, specifically in STEM program, by the way. Any major change to the OPT system, it could influence where students choose to study in future. with countries like Canada, Australia, Germany, and even India now becoming stronger alternative. So, what should the students do now? Well, let me help you with that. The first step, very, very simple, don't panic. Well, no final policy has been announced yet. Instead, keep following official updates from the Department of Homeland Security and stay in regular contact with your university's International Student Office. If you are planning your long-term career, it is also wise to explore multiple immigration pathways instead of relying on just one option, because immigration rules can change. The more prepared you are, the more choices you will have. And from students building new dreams in America, we now turn to a heartbreaking story involving an Indian family who have lost their loved ones in the world's most dangerous conflict zone. And that's our next story tonight. For most of us, global conflicts feels distant. We watch the headlines, we read the updates, and we move on. But for hundreds of Indian families, the growing tension in West Asia have become deeply personal. India has one of the largest communities of seafarers in the world. Thousands of Indians work on commercial ships, oil tankers, and cargo vessels, spending months away from their families to keep the global trade moving. Today, many of them, they are operating through one of the world's most dangerous waterways. We are talking about Strait of Hormuz here. As tension between the United States and Iran, it continues to escalate. It is the commercial ships that are passing through the region that are increasingly finding themselves caught in the middle. And tragically, Indian sailors have also lost their lives. Now, following these incidents, the families of the deceased, supported by the Forward Seamen's Union of India, have made an extraordinary demand. They are urging the Indian government to approach the United Nations and seek $5 million in compensation for each family from both the United States and Iran. In fact, the families argue that their loved ones were civilians, not soldiers. They had gone to sea to earn a living, not to become victims of an international conflict. According to them, the compensation currently available, it cannot replace the loss of the family's only earning member. The issue, it has also drawn the attention of the Indian government, by the way. The Ministry of External Affairs has raised concern over the safety of Indian nationals who are working in the conflict zone, and they have also engaged diplomatically with countries that are involved in the meantime. But beyond the compensation, this story raises a much bigger question. Thousands of Indian seafarers continue to work in high-risk regions across West Asia because global trade depends on them. Yet many families say that they are not fully aware of the dangers their loved ones face until tragedy strikes. Well, it's also a reminder for families whose relatives work in conflict-prone zones to understand their employment contract very carefully, insurance coverage is there, and emergency support system. In times of conflict, these details remain very, very, very important. Behind every single ship crossing dangerous waters, there is a family who's waiting for somebody to come home safely. And that is why the story is much more than compensation. It's about accountability, it is about safety, and it is about value of human life. And yes, while conflicts overseas is putting lives at risk, a misunderstanding back in the US is quietly putting the legal status of thousands of Indian tech professionals at risk, which, by the way, is our next story. Well, for thousands of Indian professionals working in the US tech industry, a layoff does not mean losing a job. It can also put their immigration status at risk. And one misunderstanding in particular is creating serious problem for many H-1B visa holders. Well, when companies announce layoffs, they often offer severance packages that continue for 2, 3, or even 6 months. Naturally, many employees assume that as long as they are still receiving salary or severance payment, their H-1B status remains active. But that's not how US immigration rules actually work. Ladies and gentlemen, the 60-day H-1B grace period generally starts after your employment ends, not when your severance payment stops. In other words, your bank account may still be receiving money from your former employer, but your immigration clock, it could already be ticking. And that's where many people, they make a costly mistake. Well, some professionals spend weeks believing that they have plenty of time because their severance, it is still coming in. But by the time they realize the grace period has already begun, they have far fewer days left to just find a new sponsor or take the next legal step. According to the uncertainty in the changing legal landscape around the US immigration policy, ongoing court cases and policy debates have made some employers more cautious about hiring foreign workers. As a result, H-1B transfer processes can sometimes take longer than expected, precisely when applicants are racing against a 60-day deadline. Now, what should you do if you are laid off? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the solution rather. First, ask your employer for written confirmation of your last working day. Don't assume your reverence end day and your employment end day are the same one. Second, keep a close eye on your immigration document, specifically your I-94 record. And if finding a new employer within the grace period seems unlikely, speak to a qualified immigration attorney early to understand the legal options available to you. Because when it comes to immigration, timing is everything. Making an important deadline by even a few days, it can create complications that are much harder to fix later on. And yes, while many Indians are worried about staying in America, another growing group is working for foreign companies while living in India. But even that comes with a hidden tax trap. And that's our next story. Remote work has changed the way the world works. Today, it's completely possible to sit in Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Pune, or Gurugram while working for a company based in the US, the UK, or Singapore. Now, for many professionals, it sounds the best of two worlds, a global salary while living in India. But here's one question many people, they don't really ask until it's too late. Where is that income actually taxable? Well, a common misconception is that if your salary is paid by a foreign company into an overseas bank account, or if taxes have already been deducted abroad, you don't have to worry about paying taxes in India. Now, that's not always true. In many cases, what matters is where you are physically working, not where your employer is located. If you are working in India and doing your job from India, your income may also have tax implications under the Indian law. Okay? And wait, that's where things can become more complicated for you. Many remote professionals assume that the double taxation avoidance agreement, or the DTAA, automatically protects them from paying tax twice. But claiming that relief is not automatic. It often requires proper documentation, timely filing, and following the prescribed process. Missing those steps can create unnecessary tax complications for you. And here's another issue that's becoming increasingly important, by the way. Tax authorities across countries are now sharing more financial information than ever before. With tech making it easier to compare international records, undeclared foreign income, it is becoming much harder to hide, even unintentionally. For professionals receiving overseas salaries, stock options, or foreign investment, maintaining proper records and understanding reporting requirement, it has become more important than ever before. So, if you are working remotely for a foreign company while living in India, don't assume everything is automatically covered. Review your tax residency, understand your reporting obligations, and seek professional advice if your financial situation involves multiple countries. Well, remote work may have removed geographical boundaries, but tax laws still have them. Understanding those boundaries can save you from costly surprise later on. And finally, we end with a story that reflects much bigger global shift tonight. For decades, an American passport was considered one of the most powerful in the world. But that picture is beginning to change. For decades, the American passport was seen as one of the world's most powerful travel documents. For millions of people becoming a US citizen, it wasn't just about living in America. It was also about gaining the freedom to travel across the globe with fewer visa restrictions. But that advantage, it is no longer as strong as it once was. According to the latest global passport rankings, very shockingly, the US passport no longer occupies the #1 position. Several countries in Europe and Asia now offers their citizens visa-free or visa-on-arrival access to more destinations than the United States. So, what really changed? Let's talk about that. Well, one of the biggest reasons is visa reciprocity. Around the globe, countries are signing more visa waiver agreements with each other, making travel easier for their citizens. At the same time, the US has adopted stricter immigration and border policy over the years. As a result, some countries have become more cautious about extending visa-free access to the American travelers. Result is simple. While the US passport remains one of the strongest in the world, it is no longer dominating global mobility the way it used to. Now, that does not mean that an American passport has suddenly lost its value, not at all. It still provides access to a large number of countries and it continues to be among the world's most respected travel document. But it also reflects a larger shift in the global balance of power. Countries like Singapore, Japan, South Korea, and several European nations are now leading global mobility ranking. Well, for Indians living in the US, this story is about much more than travel. It is about planning the future, whether you are waiting for your green card, whether you are thinking about becoming a US citizen, and deciding whether to return to India. People are no longer making these decisions based on only on an immigration status. Today, professionals are asking different questions. Where will my career grow faster? Which country offers best opportunity for my children? Where will I pay the least tax while providing my family? And which passport gives my family greater flexibility in future? Well, these are the questions shaping long-term decision. And that's why high net worth professionals and global executives are diversifying their options now. People are exploring residency program in other countries. Others are maintaining strong financial and family ties with India while continuing to build overseas career. The goal is no longer to depend entirely on one country, by the way, but to create more flexibility in increasingly uncertain world. The biggest lesson from this story is that a passport is no longer just a travel document. It has become a reflection of opportunity, mobility, taxation, career choices, and long-term financial planning. And that's exactly what today's Skyline has been about. Because whether it was the IRS asking you to report overseas account, big tech layoffs creating immigration uncertainty, Wall Street moving jobs to India, changing visa rule, or students who are worried about the future of OPT, every single story pointed towards one reality. The world is becoming more connected, but it's also becoming more complex. Ladies and gentlemen, policies made in Washington, it can affect a software engineer in Bengaluru. A corporate decision in California can change the future of an entire Indian family. A conflict in West Asia can impact Indian sailors thousands of kilometers away, and a tax rule that most people have never heard of can quietly steal your life savings. Well, the people who succeeds in this new world won't necessarily be the smartest or the richest. They will be the ones who stay informed, adapt quickly, and plan ahead definitely. I'm Driti, this was Skyline, and I'll see you in the next episode.